Good morning all. So today we are going to discuss about the microwave tubes. Last class we have discussed about the conventional tubes. Just we have a recap of that and then we will get into this microwave tubes details. So last class we have discussed about conventional tube. Okay, conventional tubes. In this conventional tubes, we have seen there are various type of tubes are available, and these conventional tubes are basically operate less than 1 gigahertz, not beyond 1 gigahertz. If it is beyond 1 gigahertz, that means it will enter into a microwave range. Microwave frequency means it will be in a range of greater than 1 gigahertz, that is 3 gigahertz to 300 gigahertz. Okay. So these conventional tubes we have seen, it is a triode, then we have seen tetrode, we have seen pentode, okay, and one more is vacuum diode, which is having two terminals, one is anode and cathode. But in this triode we have anode, cathode and grid. In this tetrode there are 4 different type of terminals we have seen in the previous class. Similarly, pentode is having 5 terminal device, that also we have seen in a previous class. So what are the demerits of this conventional tube? Why it is not operated in greater than 1 gigahertz? That particular thing we are going to discuss in today's class. So what is the basic reason behind this conventional tube, so that it can be overcome to form a particular device, to form a particular equipment which can operate in a particular range of bandwidth. That frequency bandwidth will be in a range of greater than 1 gigahertz. If it is greater than 1 gigahertz means there are different sort of parameters will come into picture. First, the bandwidth will be identified. Second, the gain will be identified. Third, the features, means apart from the bandwidth, what are the other features are available, like wavelength, like frequency, different sort of parameters, propagation constant, phase constant, in which particular medium this wave is going to propagate. Basically in vacuum tubes it is a air medium, dielectric value is 1. Similarly, considering all those points, we will further discuss on this particular demerits of this conventional tube. So what are the limitation of this conventional tube, why it is not operated beyond the 1 gigahertz, that we will see in today's class. Okay. So bit by bit I will discuss. First, this conventional tube we have discussed that it is operated maximum 1 gigahertz, not beyond that. Okay. If it is operating beyond that, that means it will deteriorate. Its working principle will deteriorate. What is its working principle? Its working principle is it will act as an oscillator, it will act as a rectifier, it will act as an amplifier. These are the basic application what we have seen in the previous video. Okay. So similarly, there are certain limitations are there with this conventional tube. That limitations I will note it down and then we will discuss in brief manner. So first one, limitation of conventional tube. Limitation of conventional tube. First is inter-electrode capacitance effect. Okay, fine. So these are the certain limitations of conventional tube, as you can see. First one is the inter-electrode capacitance effect. Inter-electrode capacitance effect means there is a capacitive formation or capacitance will be formed between the terminals. How many terminals? Let us consider this is a triode. Okay, this is a triode. In this triode, there are three terminals are available. One is grid, one is anode, and one is cathode. Now the working principle of this, here we have a tungsten element which is highly negatively charged, due to which the electrons will be projected towards anode. Okay, like this. So this is projected towards anode. If there is no grid, the electron will move its own velocity. Okay, but if there is a grid, external potential is provided to this particular term or this particular part, which will energize. That potential will convert it into velocity, and once if you change the characteristics of one signal, it called as a modulation. Okay, so here we are changing the velocity of electrons. These are the electrons. If the velocity is changed with respect to the grid potential, then it is called as velocity modulation. So this is the thing what we are going to discuss in further coming class. So it is called velocity modulation. Okay, so this is velocity modulation. Velocity modulation, how it will come? Initially, let us consider there are two terminals are there, anode and cathode. There is no grid, so electrons will move in a certain manner with a certain velocity. Okay, so in that particular velocity, if it is moving through a particular air medium with a dielectric value 1, the velocity we can determine easily. Okay, similarly, when I will provide a grid potential to this particular point, grid points are there. These are the grid points. Now this grid point, if I will energize, potential if I will provide, what will happen? These electrons will energize. How it will energize? Because potential is added to them, it will energize and the velocity will increase. How the velocity will increase? Because the potential change the velocity of electrons, and this is called as a velocity modulation. So this is called velocity modulation. It is only happen when the grid potential is provided. This grid potential helps the electron beam to increase their velocity. Okay, if we change the characteristics of the velocity of the electron, then it is called as velocity modulation. Whose characteristics is changed? Electron velocity is changed. With respect to whom? The grid potential. Okay, so this is the basic relation how we can convert the electron beam velocity with a constant potential as a velocity modulated electrons. Okay, so here first it is inter-electrode capacitance. Inter-electrode capacitance means, since there are three terminals are there, you can consider three plates. Suppose this anode and this grid, these two are the plate, and the medium between those two plates is certain dielectric material is available. Certain dielectric material is available. So if there are two plates with a dielectric value, I can consider it is a parallel plate capacitance. Okay. So first I will consider this is anode and this is grid. So that means the capacitance which is going to form between anode and grid, I will write CAG. So this is called as CAG. So this is called as our inter-electrode capacitance. Inter-electrode means between the two electrode, what is the capacitance is there. So that is the limitation. We will see how this limitation is overcome. Similarly, the grid and cathode. Okay, grid and cathode. Between these two, we have CGK. This is cathode is K I have written, anode is A, grid is G. Let us consider like this. Similarly, the anode and cathode. So here I will write CAK. So how many capacitance are available? 3 capacitance are available. Why? Because there are 3 terminals are there. Because here I have considered only for triode. If you go for tetrode, there are 4 terminals are there. 4 terminals means there are 4 capacitance value can be calculated. Similarly, if it is a pentode, there are 5 terminals are there, and between 5 terminals 5 capacitance can be identified. Similar to the triode. I have considered only the triode. You can consider for tetrode, you can consider for pentode also. Okay. So the working principle is same. First we need to identify this capacitance. This will help us to give a certain justification why we cannot use this conventional tube greater than 1 gigahertz. Okay, so this is first inter-electrode capacitance effect. Okay, second is the lead inductance effect. Lead inductance effect means you can see in cathode there is a tungsten element. Okay, there is a tungsten element, and in this tungsten element small coils are available. You can see here there is a, if I will draw the cathode, some coils are available. This tungsten element is available. This is the cathode terminal. Okay, so this coil will contribute as an inductance, and that is called as a lead inductance effect. So this capacitance and the inductance, when these two things are come into picture, that means the whole system will work as an oscillator. Yes, this vacuum tube can be used as an oscillator, can be used as an amplifier, can be used as a rectifier. Okay, these are the various applications are there. When it will act as an oscillator, this particular device will act as an oscillator only when at a resonating condition. Resonating condition means the capacitance, the cumulative capacitance of this device, capacitive reactance must be equal to inductive reactance, then it is called as a resonance circuit. Resonance circuit means it is XL is equals to XC. So this thing we have to identify. Okay, so that is called as the lead inductance effect. Next one is transit angle effect. Transit angle effect means this transit itself indicates that traveling of electrons. Now in this triode, from where to where electrons are moving? Electrons are moving from cathode to anode. Transit time first we will identify, then we will go for angle. Okay, transit time means the time taken by an electron. Suppose this is an electron. Transit time is the time taken by an electron to move from cathode to anode. So this is the total time period required by an electron to move from cathode to anode. That is called as a transit time. Now how it is indicated with respect to angle? Because since we are discussing that this whole system is an oscillator, this oscillator will work in a principle of frequency. Okay, and it depends upon angular frequency. Now angular frequency omega. Okay, now angular frequency omega, how it is related with respect to angle? If I will write, 1 minute, we have a certain relation. So it is theta g is equals to omega into tau g. So this is a basic relation. Angles, it is an angular frequency. Now omega is equals to theta g by tau g. Tau g is the transit time. Transit time means electron moves from cathode to anode, and omega is the angular frequency of that particular electron, and theta g is the total angle. Okay, because at the some time if we energize it, it will return back to the same cathode terminal. So if it is returned back to the same cathode terminal, that means some angles is going to form, and that is called as a transit angle. We need to increase the transit angle. Okay, so this is transit angle effect. We will discuss that one. Next, gain bandwidth product limitation. This is the most important factor of a conventional tube. Gain bandwidth factor means first we need to calculate the gain of this particular system. Gain means we are using the triode or this conventional tube as an amplifier. Amplifier means it must have some sort of gain. So first we need to calculate the gain. Second, we need to calculate the bandwidth of a particular device for this device, and then we will multiply these two, and then we will see how this gain bandwidth product limit the working principle of the conventional tubes. And the last one is the power losses. This is the most important factor, because whatever the device we are going to use, it must be power handling capacity must be good. Okay, if the power handling capacity is not good, that means we are not going to use a certain device in a particular usage, for a particular usage in a particular frequency bandwidth. Okay. Okay, fine. So here, uh, for this analysis of electrode capacitance effect, we need to identify with respect to the small signal analysis. Since we are considering that triode or this conventional tube can be used as amplification, and this amplification part can be analyzed only with respect to this sort of figures, with sort of small signal analysis. If you provide a small signal, you will get a maximum output. Now, what is the basic reason? Amplification is only done when the input signal is provided to a certain device and it will amplify it. That means at the load terminal, the maximum load impedance will be there. If the load impedance is high, that means output potential is going to be high. Okay, so those things we need to calculate, we need to analyze it. How we are analyzing? Here I have drawn two figures. First, this is our triode. Let us consider with respect to triode. The triode consists of grid, consists of a anode, which I have represented as P, or some of the book it is written as terms of plate, and then it is called as a cathode. And then this is a small inductor, what I have discussed earlier. In the cathode terminal, we have a tungsten element like this, tungsten element like, which will help us to generate the electron beams which must be projected from anode to cathode to anode terminal. So this is anode terminal, this is cathode terminal. Okay, here the electron beams are projected like this. It is moving in this particular directions. So due to this coil, I have represented an inductance as Lk, L suffix k, inductance of cathode terminal. Then a parallel resonating circuit I have used, because it will act as a resonator, so load must be there. So it is RLC I have considered. And then the output potential we need to identify. Okay, so this output terminal, if it is output potential is high provided with respect to input, then we will say it is called as amplifier. Now how we are going to identify the amplification? If the V naught is greater than V in, then we will say it is called the signal amplified. If V naught is greater than V in, so if V naught is greater than V in means V naught divided by V in must be greater than 1. So that means voltage gain must be greater than 1. Then only we will say this whole circuit acts as an amplifier. It will satisfy that. Okay. Now for that, what we have to identify? We need to identify the impedance. We need to identify the resonating conditions at which the amplification will be done, because amplification is done at a resonating frequency, maximum frequency where it is available. The output is maximum because it is a resonator, it is an act as an oscillator. Okay. Now the voltage gain must be greater than 1. So this particular figure I have analyzed in this particular terms. First, as in the previous one I have discussed the inter-electrode, as it is indicated inter-electrode capacitance. Inter-electrode capacitance means the capacitance is available between the anode and grid and cathode, anode and cathode. Okay, so here I have considered this G indicate at it is a grid, P indicate at it as a anode, so it is a grid and cathode, it is CGK. Okay, grid and anode, it is called as CGP, and this is the small signal analysis of this particular triode. So that is Gm into Vg into Rp. In FET or in MOSFET you have seen it is Gm into VDS, and this is called as RDS or RD. Sometime it will written as RD. So here I have written with respect to P. There we are writing in terms of drain. Here we are writing in terms of P because it acts as a drain. If you see this particular thing, it acts as a MOSFET only. Source, drain, gate. Same thing. Same thing I have represented here. So current which is moving from plate anode to cathode is Gm into Vg. It satisfies because anode is a positive terminal and cathode is a negative terminal, so current will move in this particular direction. But the electron beams are projected from cathode to anode. If the electrons are moving from cathode to anode, current will move in opposite direction. It satisfies. Okay, and then there is small inductance that is called Lk. Okay, and then we have connected our resonating circuit as RLC and V0. We need to analyze it. Then only we can justify why this limitation is come into picture. Okay, so this is the basic representation or basic analysis of this particular part. Okay, so step by step we will see how we can analyze it. Before proceeding to this analysis, first we need to assume that what should be the capacitive value. First assumption is our CGP must be very less than CGK. CGP means the capacitance between the grid and the anode, and CGK is the capacitance between grid and cathode. And the capacitance of the grid and cathode, grid and anode must be less than grid and cathode. This is the first assumption. Second assumption, the XL. XL must be less than, very less than XC. So XL is what? It is omega Lk, which is very less than 1 by omega CGK. Why I have considered CGK? Because our inductance is connected with respect to grid. We are not considering with respect to this anode terminal. We are considering with respect to the grid terminal. Okay. So this is omega Lk must be very less than 1 by omega CGK. So these are the two assumptions which will help us to determine why this particular effect come into picture. So step by step we will see. First, we need to calculate the input potential. Okay. So first, V in. So V in is equals to Vg plus Vk. Yes. At this particular point, you can see the total potential is Vg. Why it is Vg? Because Gm into Vg is the current. Gm is the transconductive value. So Vg is the total potential available here, and here it is Vk. So V in is equals to Vg plus Vk. So this is the first one. Done. Second, what is Vk? Vk is equals to IR, which is equals to Gm into Vg into XL. Now, what is Vk? Vk is the potential drop across Lk. Okay. Now here what sort of current is moving in? Here the current is Gm into Vg. So this is the current which is flowing in this particular point. So if I want to determine Vk, what should be my total potential? Lk into Gm into Vk. So Lk will become as XL. XL means it is a reactance value. So Gm into Vg into XL. Now what is XL? Here I will write J omega L. Okay. It is J omega L K okay. So 1 minute. So it is Gm Vg into XL term. Done. Now substitute this value here. This is the second equation. Now V in is equals to Vg plus Gm Vg into XL. Okay. So Vg Gm into XL. So this I can expand as Vg plus j omega L k into j omega L k into Gm into Vg. So here you can consider Vg as common 1 plus j omega L k into Gm. So this is my V in. Then, so this is called as our input potential. Okay. Now, once this input potential is known, next you have to calculate for input current. Why I am calculating this input potential and input current? If I know the input potential and input current, then I can determine the input impedance. Once the input impedance is known, I can determine the output impedance. Okay, or even with respect to input impedance also we can determine the amplification factor. Okay, so first for input current. So here you can see the input current is I in. So here I have written for I in. So I in is equals to V by R. This is our general equation. So it is Vg divided by Xc, which is equals to Vg divided by 1 by j omega Cgk. Okay, j omega Cgk. So here you can see when the current is entering to this particular node at G point, okay, your potential is Vg over here throughout this. Done. So V by impedance. So what sort of impedance? It is a capacitive impedance. So how to write capacitive impedance? With respect to Xc. So X is written as 1 by j omega Cgk. So 1 by Cgk is done. Now input current I will write as j omega Cgk into Vg. This is my input current. Done. So this is my fourth point. Now once this input current is known, I will substitute in this particular value in V in. So from here I will say Vg is equals to I in divided by j omega Cgk. Okay. Now in place of Vg, substitute this value so that the total equation will become in terms of V in and I in. And then you can take V in by I in a particular ratio so that input impedance can be determined. Okay. So V in is equals to Vg 1 plus j omega Lk into Gm. I am going to substitute this value in this particular Vg. Now V in is equals to I in divided by j omega Cgk 1 plus j omega Lk into Gm. Now if you take this ratio, you will become as an input impedance. So Zin is equals to V in by I in. So here I can write 1 plus j omega Lk into Gm. divided by j omega CGK. This is my input impedance. Okay, this is my input impedance, equation 5. Okay, so this is my input impedance. Now the thing is, here the numerator value is greater with respect to denominator value. 1 plus j omega Lk into Gm divided by this. So 1 plus something is greater than, if you divide this to, it is greater than 1. So whenever the impedance are greater than 1, if the numerator is greater than denominator, we prefer to choose the admittance calculation. So admittance calculation is only used when the circuits are in parallel condition. In the circuit what I have drawn, all the things in parallel. We are identifying the input impedance, but since it is a parallel, so it is preferable to go for admittance calculation, and then we can revert it for our simplification. Okay, so this is the basic representation, no matter, but you need to simplify it, you need to analyze it, you need to segregate it. So if I will just revert it, it will become as an input admittance. So y in, for simplification I am taking y in, is equals to j omega CGK divided by 1 plus j omega Lk into Gm. It is a, now it is a simple manner. Now how to solve this? Just multiply component or dividendo method. So it is 1 minus j Lk into Gm. Here also 1 minus j Lk into Gm. Simple. So this is called as an admittance. Solve it. If you are going to solve this particular value, you are going to identify, 1 minute. So our admittance is j omega CGK divided by 1 plus j omega Lk into Gm. So this is our input admittance. Now this input admittance I can write in terms of 1 by 1 plus x. Let us consider this one. Means I am only considering this particular part, 1 by 1 plus x. If you expand it, what we are going to identify with the help of binomial expansion, 1 plus x square minus x cube plus dot dot dot. Neglecting the higher component and x is less than 1, we will get 1 minus x. Same thing I am going to substitute here. So I will get y in j omega CGK whole into 1 minus j omega Lk into Gm. Done. Now it is a simple one. Multiply it. You will get j omega CGK minus j and plus j square plus omega square Lk CGK into Gm. So that means it consists of real part and imaginary part. Omega square Lk CGK Gm plus j omega CGK. So y in is j omega CGK divided by 1 plus j omega Lk into Gm, what we have derived from this particular value. So y in can be written as omega square Lk Cgk Gm plus j omega Ck. Okay. So this is the admittance, input admittance we have calculated. Now in this you can see the real part is depend upon the omega square and the imaginary part is depend upon omega. Okay. Now the thing is when this impedance is going to high or when the impedance is going to low, admittance is a reverse of impedance. Okay. Now if the angular frequency is high, means if you are going to use greater than 1 gigahertz of frequency, if it is greater than 1 gigahertz frequency, your impedance is going to be very less. If the impedance is going to be very less, that means potential drop is also very less. If the potential drop is very less, that means it doesn't work in a principle of amplifier. Okay. Now similarly, if I will use in terms of admittance, if the here omega square and omega are directly proportional to the admittance. So that means if the frequency increases, admittance value will increase. If the admittance value increases, potential drop is very less. Same thing we can justify by taking the impedance value. So same thing, what I have took as y in, just divided by 1 by y in, you will get input impedance. Solve it with the help of componendo and dividendo method. After simplification, you will get two parts. One is real part, one is imaginary part. Why? Because this is a complex circuit. Because it is a resonating circuit. It consists of L also, it consists of C also. It is a combination of a resonant circuit. So if it is a resonant circuit, means it will have a real part of impedance as well as imaginary part of impedance. Okay. So if you see, this denominator is same as this one value. It is having a real part and imaginary part. When you solve with respect to componendo and dividendo method, after simplification, you will get one real part. This is my real part and this is my imaginary part. Okay. So real part and imaginary part. So real part, 1 minute. So here you can see this is a real part and this is an imaginary part. So real part is 1 by omega square Lk Cgk and Gm, and imaginary part is omega cube Lk Cgk and Gm square. Now this indicate what? This indicate that the real part is inversely proportional to omega square. So here in conclusion I will write the real part of impedance is inversely proportional to omega square and the imaginary part is inversely proportional to omega cube. Now this conclusion indicates that when the frequency is going to be very high, your real part deteriorates, your imaginary part still it deteriorates. So that means due to the contribution of this capacitance Cgk and Lk, you are facing the trouble to operate the vacuum tube in a greater than 1 gigahertz of frequency. So this is the limitation. So this is the justification behind why these inter-electrode capacitance are going to hamper the working principle of a vacuum tube beyond 1 gigahertz. Okay. So this is the basic reason. So this is the analysis. If anybody asks why these vacuum tubes are not operating greater than 1 gigahertz, your justification lies in these two particular relations. You need to identify this relation. You need to write that since the input impedance are inversely proportional to the square of angular frequency for a real part, and for imaginary part it is a cube term, 1 by cube term of angular frequency, due to which the higher frequency range the impedance value is less. If the impedance value is less, potential drop is automatically is going to be less. If the potential drop is very less, that means it won't amplify. It won't give the output in a better way. So amplification is only done for a certain bandwidth, for a less than 1 gigahertz. You can say it is called as a narrow band. So this whole device, this whole vacuum tube, conventional tubes are working on a narrow band frequency range, okay, narrow bandwidth. For a wider bandwidth you need to go for other device. There are different sort of devices are there apart from conventional tube, that are called ordinary tube, as well as some tubes are available that we will discuss. Those are called microwave tubes. This is also a tubes, it is a general conventional tubes. We are identifying the limitation, okay. So this is the limitation for inter-electrode capacitance effect. Done. Okay. So here, next one is the transit angle effect. Now since it is a conventional tube, the conventional tubes are basically operate less than 1 gigahertz. If you increase the frequency greater than 1 gigahertz, the efficiency of this conventional tube is going to be very less. Due to what? Your transit angle effect is also very deteriorate. Means the distance between the electrodes, if you increase, okay, if the electrode plates are increasing, the transit time also increase. If the transit time increases, your angular the transit angle is also going to increase. If the transit angle is also going to increase, that means what will happen? The time taken by a particular electron to reach the anode is very high. If the external potential is provided, then only the velocity modulation will be taken place and it will move in a faster manner to reach to the anode. Okay, so this is also one sort of angular. It is a transit angle effect. Only the thing is that we need to identify in which particular frequency range our tubes is operating. If it is greater than 1 gigahertz, the efficiency of this tube is going to be very less. If the efficiency is very less, that means how we can justify? We can justify with the help of this particular angle, transit angle. Suppose if there is no grid, the electron beam will move with its own direction. Okay. So here how many parameters are there? This omega into tau g. So tau g means it is a time taken by an electron to move from cathode to anode. Okay. How it will move? It depends upon velocity, it depends upon distance. So tau g is equals to distance by velocity. So distance is the gap between the two electrodes and V0 is the velocity of an electron which is moving from cathode to anode terminal. So here if the gap distance, if you increase, then your transit time increases and transit angle also increases. So it is preferable that the gap between the electrode must be less, so that the electron move faster from cathode to anode in a small time period with an external potential, that is a grid potential. Okay, so this is only happen only with respect to less than 1 gigahertz. If it is greater than 1 gigahertz, this particular thing is very high and we cannot identify the efficiency properly. The efficiency of a particular triode or a conventional tube deteriorate. So this is one application. I will provide the notes. In that I have jotted some points that indicate what I have discussed now. Okay. The next one is our gain bandwidth limitation. We will end our session with the gain bandwidth limitation. 1 minute. So here I have written some, it is a derivation through which we can justify the gain product, gain bandwidth product is also one sort of limitation for a conventional tube. How? Let us see. So this is the one part from a particular diagram what I have drawn earlier, that is the equivalent circuit for a triode, in which we have a small signal representation with respect to plate and cathode. So it is a GM into Vg and it is Rp, okay, and this is our load, that is RLC, and here we are getting Vg because it is a parallel connection, so total potential is Vg, okay. Next, so first we have to identify the load potential. Load means what is the total potential available at this particular point. So what is the total current available here? It is Gm into Vg. So I into R. Now since all these things are connected in a parallel, we need to analyze in terms of admittance first. So Gm into Vg divided by 1 by Rp, 1 by RL, 1 by j omega L, 1 plus j omega C. Okay, resolve it. Now when you are resolving this, you will get Gm into Vg divided by G plus j omega, j whole into omega minus 1 by j omega L. Okay. Now maximum gain at a resonating frequency. Why I am saying it is a maximum gain at a resonating frequency? Because as we can see, the whole circuit is act as a resonator. Parallel combination of RL circuit is there. Parallel combination of LC circuit is also there. If the parallel combination of LC circuit is there, that means it acts as a resonating. We should justify at a resonating condition XL must be equal to XC. So a maximum gain is happen at a resonating frequency only. So resonating frequency is what? Fr is equals to 1 by 2 pi root over of LC. How we have got? We have got this one as XL is equals to XC. It is omega L 1 by omega C, that is Fr is equals to 1 by 2 pi root over of LC. From here I have derived Fr. Okay. Now at that maximum gain, load potential is VL divided by Vg must be equal to Gm by capital G. Why? Because at resonating condition this whole component is going to be 0. Okay, because XL is equals to XC, so this is 0. VL by Vg, VL is the output, Vg is the input, Gm by G, so Gm by G is the maximum gain. This is the maximum gain can be obtained from a triode, okay, at a resonating frequency. Now we need to calculate the bandwidth. Okay, how we are going to calculate the bandwidth? Now the bandwidth calculation is done at the half power point, half bandwidth power. So bandwidth measured at a half power point. So A max is equals to Gm by 2G. So maximum gain is obtained at a half power point. So it is Gm by 2G. Then now the resonating condition is what? So G must be equal to omega C minus 1 by omega L. Solve this. It is an equatic. It is a quadratic equation. You will get one positive value. You will get one negative value. Positive value is omega 1 G by 2C minus this one. Omega 2 is G by 2C plus this one. Okay. Since we are operating in a higher band frequency, add these two components. Okay. If you add these two components, the upper sideband you are going to identify. If you subtract these two components, lower sideband you can determine. Or if you subtract these two values, then also we are going to identify the same bandwidth. Okay. So here, if I am adding these two components, the bandwidth at the higher level we are identifying. If you add these two, you will get G by C. So here, G is equals to omega C minus omega L. Solve this. You will get in terms of omega this whole point, G in terms of CL and all. So bandwidth is equals to GC plus 2C plus G plus 2C is equals to G by C. This is neglecting the higher component. If any other component is there, neglect it. Only we need to identify the constant value. So bandwidth is G by C. Now once bandwidth is known, gain is also known, and all these things we are calculating at a resonating frequency at which maximum gain is obtained. So A max into bandwidth is equals to Gm by G. Here we have calculated Gm by G. this is Gm by G, and then bandwidth is G by C, multiplied you will get transconductance divided by capacitive value. So it is AX into bandwidth into Gm by C, or Amax is equals to Gm divided by C into bandwidth. What it indicate? It indicates the maximum gain is inversely proportional to the bandwidth at which this triode is going to be operated. If your bandwidth is very high, your gain is also deteriorating. That means at a higher range of frequency, your triode will not act as an amplifier. No voltage gain can be identified. That also we have discussed in that inter-electrode capacitance. If the inter-electrode capacitance is having those sort of value, that means gain we are deteriorating. It is also justifying the same limitation. Okay. Here what we have justified, here we have justified that the maximum gain is obtained at a resonating frequency. Yes. Maximum bandwidth obtained at a resonating frequency. If you multiply these two components, that means your gain is going to be inversely proportional to the bandwidth. Okay, if the gain is inversely proportional to the bandwidth, if the bandwidth increases, if the bandwidth value increases, your gain is definitely going to be less. So if my bandwidth is greater than 1 gigahertz, that means your voltage gain of this particular device is very less. So for a higher frequency greater than 1 gigahertz, it cannot amplify. It cannot be work as an amplifier. Okay. So this is the limitation of a conventional tube, why it is not operating beyond 1 gigahertz. Okay. So these are the basic concept apart from our syllabus, but these are the things you should know, because these are the things which we are going to utilize in our microwave tubes. In your syllabus only the reflex klystron is there, but apart from reflex klystron there are other devices are also there. Those devices also, if time permits, I will discuss for you people. Okay. But these things are the basics. If you understand this, it is very easy to understand the reflex klystron principle as well as two cavity, multi cavity, TWT, magnetron, different sort of devices are there. Okay. This can be used as a source also. It can be used as an amplifier also. It can be used as a rectifier also. Okay. So these are the basic concept behind the limitation of conventional tube, why it is not operating beyond 1 gigahertz. Okay. Thank you all.